We are going to talk about a movie.
This is going to be a disaster.
It was one of the best movies of the year.
It's gonna go so well. Probably one of the last movies I would ever want to see in a theater. What is going on, everybody? Taylor here.
And Jacob.
And we are going to talk about technically our first movie in our Netflix double feature of the day.
Yep.
But it is our second video.
Yes.
So we started off the day with a Scorsese film that I think is top of the list for the decade for him. Mm-hmm. Like, it's at least in contention for a top spot. Yeah. And we are talking about The Irishman.
The Irishman is Martin Scorsese's dream project. It is one that he's wanted to make for a very long time. And
you've been very into this movie has been top of your anticipated
I've been looking forward
list.
to this movie for a long time. I was really hoping we'd get it last year. I really thought that maybe we would, because he shot it 2 years ago. So I was really hoping we would maybe get it last year. But obviously we didn't. We now have it in 2019. And I think it was all the better for it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
This is a fantastic film. This is
very, very good. And I'm still just absolutely baffled that there was not a typical kind of movie studio that would give Martin Scorsese the budget he wanted for this movie.
Yeah.
Like, Netflix came to play and showed the studios that,
I mean, look, part of me understands it, and then the other part of me goes, you're idiots. Because part of me goes, it's a 3.5 hour Martin Scorsese mob film about, and it's much more of a reflective film. Like, it's pretty slow, deliberately slow.
Right,
but
not in a bad way.
It's deliberately paced. It's very reflective. It's violent, but it's not
It's not gory.
It's not it's not like Goodfellas violent.
No.
There is violence in it, but it is not
not the star of the show.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I understand why a Paramount, a Warner Brothers kind of goes, we're a little nervous about a 3.5 hour film. And we don't have anything to sell it on other than, obviously, it's a Scorsese film. However, him going to Netflix gave him the freedom.
I agree, but I just think that in a time when studios are trying to scramble for original content to put out, original scripts and things like that to put out, and you have a name like Scorsese that 99% of the time is going to be a draw. Yeah. There are a couple here and there that obviously haven't hit box office wise. But for the most part, you get Scorsese. Yeah. And then you have your cast in this movie. To me, that should have been enough for a studio to say, guys. Yeah,
we'll take the punt.
Look at this cast.
I know.
But just, to me, it doesn't make any sense. But whatever, Netflix is the winner this year, clearly, with what they've got going on at the moment. But I do want to say I was a little... this movie wasn't top of my list for anticipation. Not because I don't like Martin Scorsese. I think he puts out amazing films. I really do. To me, it just wasn't on the top of my list. There were so many other movies this year that I was more excited for than this movie when I was making my list. And I guess maybe I was just a little hesitant about it because... movie that's longer than 3 hours is either going to be a great experience or it's going to be the longest 3 hours of your life trying to get through a movie. And I was also hesitant just because sometimes mob movies are hit or miss for me. They're either really interesting or they're just not for me. And there was just a lot around. Is it going to deliver as a Netflix movie? Yeah. It's not a major studio. We understand, a major studio is.
It's not a big six.
And it's probably one of the movies that has delivered the most for me this year. With it's at least top 10, if not higher for me. It really is, like you said, deliberately paced. It feels like it moves along the way that it should.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really like, maybe there's 10 minutes you could cut out of it, but not even.
Yeah,
to
like
me. It's the right length for the story that they were trying to tell. And I think that the cast, the leads, and all of the minor roles, all of the supporting roles, really deliver in this movie to very, very high levels.
Yes.
And it's an experience, and I'm really glad actually that we did see it in a theater, because it's one of those movies where you could start justifying getting up and doing other things because it is a long movie. But the dialogue is so important to this movie that you really do need to put yourself in an environment where you sit there and you just watch it and enjoy and experience what it is. It's a movie that we don't really get very often anymore. We talked about this in the car on the way home, that you don't really see the mob movie anymore, at least not in plentiful amounts and not in large scale productions. It's just not, it's kind of how Westerns were, where we don't really get a ton of true Westerns anymore. And I think it's a beautiful, it's kind of a beautiful end cap, I guess, to this period of telling these kind of stories.
I obviously was highly anticipating this film. I've been looking forward to this film for a very long time. And it delivered on every promise that I was told. Every promise that I thought this movie could be, it delivered. It is a beautiful 3.5 hour meditation on a life. It is a man reflecting on his life, who he is. It's an unreliable narrator.
Yes.
Which
Absolutely.
I did like. And I liked that. I liked the way that I liked the framing devices of the film, and I liked how the film told its story. I really thoroughly enjoyed all the performances. To me, Pacino is highly entertaining as Jimmy Hoffa. De Niro is really, really good as Frank. Joe Pesci steals this movie for me completely. I think I think Joe Pesci gives the best performance in the movie because, for starters, it is unlike any performance we've really ever seen from Pesci. Like, most of the time, Pesci is the loud, screaming one. Here, he is very quiet, very purposeful, very clear in what he is saying. You can tell that normally Pesci plays the reckless one, the one that could go off on a handle at the snap of a finger, like where if you do something, he's going to go crazy. Instead, here we see, no, this is a man who has made his way up through calculated decisions. Yeah. Who is incredibly intelligent, but is also incredibly feared for who he is. But he has gained the respect of everybody. Whereas in Pesci has never played a man who's had respect. He's always played a man who's been feared. And I think I really loved seeing Pesci play the man of respect. And him as Russell was, I loved this performance. He is absolutely incredible in this film, and I think it worked absolutely incredibly. Scorsese directed the hell out of it. It is...
Yes, absolutely.
From the opening frame, you go, yep, this is a Scorsese film. Even, like, from the opening shot when it goes down the hallway, and you just, yep, and with the music, this is a Scorsese film. Yeah. This is one of the best films of the year, and I loved every second of it.
I disagree with you in terms of performance. I think that this movie completely belongs to the other two. Like, just to me, it's, and I think his performance is just so understated, which isn't bad. He does a great job in it. But to me, the other two performances are just, they just bring me more.
Yeah, and that's understandable. I mean, De Niro gives an incredible performance in this. He is incredible in it. For me though, I think why I'm gravitating so much towards Pesci is I've never seen that from Pesci. Whereas with De Niro, he does a really great job, but it's not so far away from his other characters. Like, we've kind of seen towards the end, it doesn't. Like, towards the end is where we've never seen De Niro be so reflective. But through majority of the film, it's De Niro as we've kind of seen before, except really good, because obviously De Niro is like incredible, and same with Pacino. That to me is, I think, why Pesci has stood out so much is just because I've never seen Pesci be that kind of character.
I have a hard time judging performance based on past performances. I don't really look at it and go, well, they've done this before, so it's not as good.
Fair enough.
I can't look at performances that way, because it's, I don't know, to me, De Niro, you can put him in 100 mob movies, and do you want to not see him in mob movies anymore?
Exactly. No,
that's kind of where I'm coming at it from, is just I was more engaged, I guess, in their performances, especially at the end, towards the end of the movie, when it gets to a certain point where you have to believe.
You have to believe in this friendship. Like,
otherwise, it just, the whole movie falls apart.
No, I get that, and I do get that, and there is the scene at the end, towards the end, where he calls someone, and De Niro was incredible in that moment. I thought that was absolutely incredible, and De Niro pulled off that brilliantly.
I do want to mention something that for us was going to be a very big proponent of whether or not we actually bought into this movie.
Yeah.
Which was the big CGI, the de-aging element of this movie. And at first, I was a bit terrified. Yeah. At first, I was very jarred.
The first time they do it, I think it was a mistake for the first shot of us seeing the de-aging to literally just be a jump cut from him being old to young,
because it was very jarring.
It's jarring, and not for a second you believe that this is a 30-year-old.
No,
like
when it first happened.
Yeah, when at the start he's not 30 years old, and it's a little weird to see Pesci call him a kid. Like,
yeah, a little bit.
It's a little bit weird, but I feel like once it started to really sink into that era, it got better for me.
I agree. It took me probably about 10-15 minutes to get there, where I looked at it and went, okay, now I'm in. Now it's not distracting me. And I don't know if it's just because my brain wasn't ready for it, or if because the first part of it is a little wonky in terms of it. Like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I have a feeling a lot of the stuff around 1960 isn't a lot of de-aging, but it's more makeup. Yeah. Like, because it's 1960, he's kind of meant to be... You can de-age De Niro down to around 40, 50. You could. And I think... And that's roughly where he is meant to be at that age. So, at that time. So,
but it definitely wasn't a big detractor from the film, like we were worried it might be, which was great.
Yes.
It doesn't... After that initial part where your brain kind of gets used to what's going on, it's great.
Yeah, and I thought the technology wasn't... Yeah, it worked for the film and for the story they were telling. And to me personally, I don't think you could have done some of those earlier scenes recasting, like with a younger actor, and I don't think it would take away from those moments.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I mean, just good recasting wouldn't have, but I get the idea that we wanted to tell this story.
No, I get it. And it's, it wasn't like... I don't think there was a lot of the film that really was de-aged a ton. Like you said, there was a lot where it probably was makeup or just very small adjustments of de-aging in a lot of it, which, it is what it is. But this movie is very transportive. Like, if you're willing to sit there and buy into what's going on, it takes you to a whole different time in American history.
It does.
Completely.
And I really thoroughly enjoyed that. This film, absolutely, it felt like Scorsese doing Unforgiven. So Unforgiven, like it felt like Scorsese doing Unforgiven, and this was his eulogy to the mobster films, and very reflective of who you are as a man, who you are as someone at that point in their life, and looking back on the way they've treated people, the way they have acted.
what their priorities were in life, and what was motivating them to do the things that they did. And that's very evident when he's reflecting particularly on his relationship with his family.
Yes.
Which I thought was handled really well.
I did too.
In the film.
I do too. I think that whole dynamic is so important to the film, and to change it would hurt.
Yeah,
that moment.
I absolutely agree. I think this film is beautiful in terms of aesthetics. It's, like I said, it transports you to a completely different time in U.S. history.
Yeah.
In everything, in the cars that they're driving, and the bars that they're hanging out in, the Italian restaurants that they're going to, and the little bits of history that are tied into the movie, and the people that they know, and all of that is fantastic, and it does a lot to bring you to that place. But this movie is so heavily reliant on all of these relationships working the way that they do, and sometimes the way that they don't. But the fact that you have to believe those things, that you have to believe that these guys are those characters, because the mob mentality is such a different mentality from anything else you really see in film, in terms of these unspoken rules and how these relationships and power dynamics and hierarchies actually work, and what's said and what's not said, and all the read between the lines things that have to happen for this to actually function as its own little community that outsiders have no idea what's going on, and if they do, you're never gonna know because they don't want to die. Like, it's just such a fascinating thing when it works well in a movie, and I think that through and through it works. You believe the power dynamics, and you believe that certain people know certain things, and to me the most fascinating part, I think, is the way that it ties into government organizations and political figures, and people being in pockets of other people and paying people off, and how the legal system can work sometimes. That to me is the most interesting part of this movie.
I loved this film incredibly. I thought the story they were telling was absolutely terrific and tremendous, and this is just one of the best films of the year.
I agree. It's definitely, like I said, it's at least top 10 for me. Absolutely. It's shot right up towards the top of my list. I can't recommend enough for you guys to go see it. Depending on what country you're in, you might be able to catch it in a theater somewhere.
Try and see it in a theater.
Please try to, because it's an experience.
Yeah, and not only that, like it was shot for a cinema. You can see that, and you can tell that the shooting style was very reliant on seeing it in the theater, and I think seeing it in the theater, because it is a 3.5 hour film, you kind of do need to sit with it. You can't get up, go, I'm just going to be on my phone because I'm watching a movie. I'm just sitting on the couch on your phone, and I understand that. And this isn't the film for that. You need to be able. You do need to be actively engaged with the film the entire time.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. And I won't mind it as much for us to be able to rewatch it on Netflix after we've already seen it. But for a first time viewing, I think that you lose a lot. You will if you don't get to see it in the theater. But that being said, please check it out either way. I definitely think it's worth at least one viewing. Yeah. But if you guys have seen it, please leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys what your favorite parts of the movie were. If you think anyone's getting any acting nominations for this movie, because that's gonna be a big question mark coming up into award season. But thank you guys so much for all of your support. All of our links are down in the description if you want to find us on social media. Our Letterboxd account is down there if you want to see what we've rated this film or where we've put it on our list. We also have our Gold Derby links where we're going to be making all kinds of predictions and changing things last minute if you want to keep up on what we think is going to happen during award season. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Keep your eye out for some Oscars content coming your way, and we will see you next time.